Today, we're not going to do just basics. We are going to catch you at the basic level and bring you into the advanced level. So you really have your X, Y, Z coordinates on what is actually happening with this very important and dynamic piece of the future. So diving right in, we will start with something that hopefully will help everybody here just kind of wrap their heads around what has been going on. So if you think about today, we use a dollar, okay? And a dollar is just a printed piece of paper. It has some symbols and it's worth, in our mind, $1. We don't question it. But if you really take it apart and look at it, it's just a piece of paper. It's just a very thin piece of paper. And if you were to take a similar sized piece of paper and try to give it to anybody, they would laugh at you. It's literally worthless at this point. The small amount of paper that this is actually being exchanged between hands is literally worthless. What it really is a symbol of value. It's an agreed upon symbol of value. And that is why that dollar has meaning. That's why that piece of paper has meaning. It's not a gold bar. It's not coconuts on an island. It's a symbol of value. And it's contextually significant. In other words, the reason it's significant is because of the way others are thinking about it. We're all agreeing to think about it in a certain way. It's the only reason it is actually significant. And then also in today's system, we've got the fact that $1 is 0.99 euro, 6.751, 0.012 rupees, and this goes on and on and on and on. And that changes every single day, right? So again, there's all this contextually significant paper all across the globe. It's a very complex set of siloed, because each country has its own sovereign currency, yet very interdependent, as we all understand by now. What happens in Asia impacts our stock market and vice versa. So it's all significant paper, contextually speaking, but it's extremely messy. It's inefficient. If you've ever gone to like Europe and then you've gone to the Cambio and then you got to change your paper, or these days, most people are using credit cards. You need actual cash once in a while, and you're kind of like, oh my gosh, what? It's having to lug around. Even this light paper feels inefficient. It's inconvenient. So this system that we're in right now is working to a point. It's not broken, but it's not as streamlined or as effective in certain circumstances as it could be. Now take a minute and think about cryptocurrency or Bitcoin. It's actually not that different if you really think about it. Cryptocurrency is on the web, it's in the ether, okay? But it's contextually significant, in and of itself virtually worthless, okay? Interdependent, changes every single day, super variable, okay? There's lots of different kinds of crypto, of course. But it's, if you just take
Jennifer's.
Yes.
We lost your sound there for a second.
Oh,
but you're back. Yeah, we just lost it for just a quick second.
I think.
Yeah, it's gone again.
Yeah, Judd.
We can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me just guys, I don't know why it's picking up my husband's AirPods. I don't know why. My presentation is picking up your AirPods. is picking up your AirPods. Sorry.
Melanie.
So Jennifer, we last heard you were talking about the features of cryptocurrency, just in case you want to know where we lost you.
Okay, thank you. But you can hear me right now?
Mm-hmm.
All right. This is important. Think about it. Crypto feels like this spooky, invisible thing on the internet. But if you really take a minute, it's no different from where we are today. We're using a paper symbol, but mentally we're all agreeing on a contextually significant, interdependent, variable symbol. It's actually not that different at all from where we are today. The only thing that's right now tethering us is this symbol of $1, which, if you're honest with yourself, you barely touch cash these days anyway. Most of your transactions are digital. So we're holding on to it like a security blanket in a sense, because we've already made a mental leap that our agreements are in the ether. They're mental. So while we talk about cryptocurrency as something extremely new, and it is, there's lots going on with it. In terms of what it actually is, people try to say it's so different from any kind of real money. It's not that different, because the time when we actually exchange coconuts or gold has long since passed, okay? And if we look at what cryptocurrency or Bitcoin especially do now, there are some major differences, and they are for the better. So for example, it's much more efficient to have an entirely digital currency than paper, because it's a great equalizer, okay? It can be anywhere in the globe in an instant, okay? There's not this paper dragging down the system. There's not going to be 100 different kinds of paper, because instead of needing to change it into a yen in order to transact it eventually into a euro or whatever, it's going to be one currency, one digital currency. So that creates streamlinedness, and it's accessible to all countries. It can't be as manipulated as currencies right now can be, because right now you can take down the entire economy of a country if they've made some wrong choices in how they print money and how inflation goes and everything else. Things can really be manipulated. There are people whose whole day job, and I know them from college, was to just trade currencies across the globe based on the value of one being higher than the other at any given moment. So there's some efficiencies that are built into, especially Bitcoin, that improve upon the current system as it is, okay? Now, Adapia, I think, wants to talk a little bit more about Bitcoin specifically, and maybe you want to step in here as we get ready to go to the next slide.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yeah, and I do want everyone to know too, the understanding of money and currency is very deep and far, far, far beyond the scope of what we're talking about today. However, Bitcoin specifically, which really is what started this whole movement around cryptocurrencies and blockchain and essentially distributed ledgers, which are meant to be a trustless service. So these are all words and concepts that I highly, highly encourage you to go look up, because when you start to look at what money really is, what backs money actually is, as Jennifer was saying, is kind of nothing. It's called fiat. The fiat system is backed by nothing other than governments agreeing that they are going to pay their debts, issue bonds, etc. We talked about this in the debt recording that is available on Leadership Global, that really all money is debt, literally credit. So for anybody who wants to do a little more research, go look up what the petrodollar is. Go look up Bretton Woods. The inflationary environment we're currently in, the money printing that's been happening since 2008, Bitcoin was created in response to this. It was created in response to money that a small group of men can print at any point in time and literally destroy countries and lives. And it's serious. We're very lucky in the US. We're so fortunate not to live in an environment where inflation can be 200% per day. So you're making your money, you're working hard, and then the next day you can't buy food because of decisions that the central governments have made. This is where this all starts. And this is where the sovereignty concept is really, really important. And then there's all the technicals, right? Then there's the technicalities of cryptocurrency, which we'll get into, and a little bit the difference between Bitcoin and other types of crypto. But we're already seeing, why would sovereign nations like El Salvador and others, a lot of African nations as well, use Bitcoin as a form of legal tender? Because their currencies are unstable. Bitcoin is more related to gold or an asset than it is money. However, what Bitcoin and other blockchains are creating is a transaction system. When we use our credit card, we don't know how it works. That's okay. We also don't know how the internet technically works, but we use it. And this is what blockchain really is. And so we have some cryptocurrencies, and I think there's a slide later on, and we'll get into, like, however, there's thousands, literally thousands of these cryptocurrencies, but there's only a few that are very, very significant. And that's a big distinction that we want to make, is like knowing what to look for, what is quote unquote real or worth your time, and what is not. And the last point, just on, we're already printing money is already digital. Like Jerome Powell, who's the Fed chairman, he actually says this all the time. We just print money. The Treasury prints money, the Fed buys bonds, and then we have all this extra money in the system. So this change into digital, into crypto, into blockchain, like this is already happening. It's already happening. And this is why this specific presentation today is so important.
Yes. And one of the things we forgot to say at the beginning is, in this particular presentation, more than anything, we want questions, because we want to capture the questions in the recording. So if you have questions, and a lot of this is going to be really out there because the amount of time and interest spent on Bitcoin and crypto, for example, Atopia is deep, 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 deep in this. So you're going to get stuff that's professorial level here, but my job is also going to be to help you guys get it intuitively in terms of like basics. So you're going to have your XYZ coordinates, and then there's an entire spectrum in between, because you're not getting, like I said, a basic presentation here. You're getting clued in to understand this at a top level, as at high a level as you're going to need in order to leverage your wealth. Okay, and that's our goal here. One thing we wanted to just note, and I hope I didn't slip a slide yet. There's debate about, is crypto here to stay? Is Bitcoin here to stay? Just so you know, Wire, which is a company that has been facilitating crypto transactions for companies, for a while now, since the early days, since this was like some people in the dark web. They just got acquired for 1.5 billion in April. Okay, and I would be surprised if they don't go public. I'm personally tracking to see when and if there's a stock. This is despite a huge tank in the stock market. Stock market is at its lowest in 50 years, which is really something to consider. By the way, a lot of that is due to overinflated tech stocks. So even in an overinflated tech stock world, companies are spending 1.5 billion post the crash, because the crash happened before April, on crypto and Bitcoin transactions. So what that means is other people are reading the tea leaves here, okay, and putting billions of dollars in the future, which means it's unlikely this is going away. There's one piece of evidence, okay? Another is, I happen to know, I was at a CPA conference in California where they had people who are in with the stock world, the SEC, et cetera. And I happen to know that companies like Wire and their parent companies are in active talks with the stock exchange about how to regulate this. So it's going to take about 2 years, because this stuff doesn't happen overnight, but they're looking to figure out how to, if you can't beat them, join them, okay? Because they know that there's too much volume in the system now to just wish this away. And so as that starts to happen, it will become more and more adopted. There's another piece of evidence that's maybe anecdotal, but here's a third one, and this is more of the logic, Occam's razor, the simplest sort of piece between two connected dots is usually the right answer. If something is just like today's system, almost, but just slightly more effective and efficient, is it going to happen? Probably. Think about the telegram. It was not a broken system. It worked, but then the fax machine was easier. So we adopted it. And then the fax machine worked. Why did we improve upon it? Well, it was inefficient. So then we got email. Then email, my 10-year-old won't even answer emails. She refuses. She's like, just text me. Okay. She doesn't even have a phone, but she requires me to text her because that's easier for her. So now it's text. And then we have all of these advances that we've seen in our own lifetimes happen. And why did they happen? Because the system that was working, not broken, was able to be improved upon. And so we adopted it. Okay. Adoption is uneven. It always has been. All right. Fax stuck around for a long time. I still have a fax number. I use it once a year. Okay. But most of my transactions are now on the internet. So just ask yourself, is this inevitable? Because that's where we are right now. And this is an awesome slide. Maybe you want to talk about this, Atopia.
Yeah, I mean, this slide basically just outlines everything that Azar was saying. There are adoption curves. So adoption curves essentially describe the sociological life cycle of a particular technology or concept. I remember learning about this in business school. And even though the technology that we might be talking about is different, it's really about natural human behavior and sociological dynamics that simply repeat. It basically, no matter like what you give us as humans, we're gonna do the same thing because it's just how we are. We're very slow. We're very slow to change. Behavioral economics is fascinating. Anyone that has taken marketing knows that it's all about behavior. But basically, this S curve just shows that the adoption cycle. So basically, what it means is when a new technology becomes prevalent, it always pretty much follows something called this S curve, where in the very, very, very beginning, hardly anybody is using it, just the nerds. And then eventually more people take it on, more people start to use it. You have an early majority, a late majority. And then by the time the laggards are in, it's basically over. Everybody from the beginning's like already on to the next new thing. But this is how it works. Like even the internet, when the internet was first becoming a thing, you can find like old like newspaper articles. Oh, the internet's never going to work. It's this like poo-poo. It's bad. Never going to happen. Everyone's speaking out against it. The media, the incumbents, because it's a disruptive technology. Like someone's business model is about to go under, and those incumbents don't like that, right? So this is the S curve, basic for everything technology.
Yep. Think about it. After Zoom, even grandparents know how to use the internet now because they can see their grandkids, right? So it's like nerds up to boomers, but we got there and it all happened because of COVID, okay? This happens. We've seen it over and over. This is a really awesome slide too. If you look at the automobile, okay, and you look at tablets, the radio. I remember watching Downton Abbey and they had electricity. And there was the grandparents, and it's not against grandparents. I'll be one day, but they were a little like this newfangled thing. I don't trust it. And but yet there was the excitement that now we can have electricity. I think it was Downton Abbey when it was new, right? And now we don't even think about it. We've gone past electricity to, we have LEDs, which is still electricity, but we've gone past all of that. We don't question it. So if you look at it, what's really interesting is they all eventually get here, which is they're adopted.
Yeah.
Now, this is really important. There are over 9,900 types of cryptocurrency right now. Okay. Now ask yourself, if we have and keep 9,900 cryptocurrencies, have we actually solved the problem of inefficiency that we have today, which is that we've got yen and euros and dollars and then rupees and all the other ones? No, we would not have. Okay, so using again that logic, okay, having 9,900 digital currencies will not be an improvement upon a current system. It would be a replication of the failings of our current system. Okay, so just using logic, that wouldn't make the case for adoption. What's really going to have to happen is that 9,888 of those are going to have to die. Okay, and they will. And right now, just so you know, Bitcoin has the lion's share. Ether's behind it. Why is Ether successful? They tied it to a value. They tied it to NFTs, okay? They're pushing forward a bunch of technology and innovation. There's real value in it. It's providing real value. It's not empty. That's part of why it's also here in the pie piece significantly. Then you've got all these tiny ones. This is as of July last year. Some of these might be dead by now. I couldn't get an updated pie graph, but it's a very unstable market when you get into the babies. And I'll just tell you right now, my advice is stay away from them. It's a waste of your time. Because number one, if there's a tiny wave you want to try to ride or whatever, it's so unstable, it'll waste your time and energy and money because these guys are here to stay. If you're not in Bitcoin or Ether, just get involved in those, forget the rest, they're gonna die. Okay, because what's going to solve the system will be having 1 or 2, possibly 3 digital currencies that the entire globe transacts in. Otherwise, there will have been no point for having done this.
Can we go back to that slide though for a second? Because I do want to explain like a few more things too. if those of you who may have heard the term network effects, this is really what is going to drive adoption, and certain like cryptos, like currency is really, it truly is a misnomer. I like to think of them more like tech companies. They're trying, some are trying to build an underlying technology that can be transacted on, right? And so, as Jennifer said, like Ethereum's doing that because there are NFTs on Ethereum. There's also NFTs, let's say, on Solana or others, but it's really this network effect. And the network effect is the more people using it, the stronger the network is. And so what you have is you have people creating new cryptos, trying to vie for, some of them have really good actual underlying technology under them, which is why they will be bought or absorbed by others, right? Just like tech, like this is really the best way to think about it. And then others are going to have a dominant position. And I did want to explain like a few things about what Bitcoin is and what makes it so very different from everything else. And so one of the most powerful characteristics of Bitcoin, one could say, is like it has a bit of an ideological malleability. So like there's different value propositions for Bitcoin. You've probably heard them, right? It's an inflationary hedge, a digital payment system, a decentralized settlement network, a censorship resistant, borderless bearer asset that you can take anywhere in the world. So what do I mean? So in Afghanistan, there were women and girls who were actually able to take their Bitcoin with them because they memorized the seed phrase to their Bitcoin. Same with the Ukraine, and many other countries where they were able to actually take their wealth because they had taken whatever their local fiat currency is, got it on Bitcoin, and then they left the country with it because they knew what that password was. And if anyone remembers or was even aware of it, because it wasn't really covered in the media, but when the Canadian government, and I'm from Canada, it's very disappointing, froze assets in banks of people who were supporting the Freedom Convoy, that is not okay. Just think about that for a second. That again, a centralized entity like a bank where we think everything is safe can be told by a government, do not give people their own money. This is what we're talking about. Like at its most ideological level, sound money and sovereign money, sovereign wealth. And there are people in other countries that are literally able to make a new life because they're able to transact on blockchain, and specifically Bitcoin, where the government can't come in and take it and seize it. They can't be seized. And we don't really experience that much here. But when I saw that happen in Canada, that's really scary. That's really scary. And that can happen here anytime. Don't think about it. It can happen. The only thing holding up currency is trust and a stable government with the US. But we got to be really aware that these things can happen. And so Bitcoin is the only decentralized network. So Ethereum has developers, and it has enough nodes and it has enough people that one could say it's decentralized, but there's still a person, there's still a set of people potentially that regulators can go after. This is a big thing. Bitcoin does not. It was put out into the world, and there's nobody to go after. There's nobody to corrupt. There's nobody that they can jail. Nobody even knows what Satoshi is or who they are. Who knows? But it's there, and it's the most secure of all of the networks, which is why this is what corporations are putting on their balance sheets, which is why governments are looking at it like digital gold. You can think of it as a rare digital commodity because there can only ever be 21 million. So when we talk about inflation, nobody can just say, oh, I'm gonna double down, I'm gonna make another 21 million Bitcoin. So what happens when you have more of everything? The value of it goes down. That's what inflation is. That's what currency debasement is. And that's currently happening. So there's all these unique attributes that this is really important, because when you look at the definition of money, scarcity, durability, portability, divisibility, is it verifiable? Is it storable? I mean, there's so much that goes into it. And Bitcoin is really, truly being recognized by institutional finance, which is going to further drive adoption and value over time. So like it's a very different animal to all other crypto. And I see this. Yeah. Oh, great question, Sarah. Oh no, we're still mining Bitcoin.
Oh, that's crazy. It's the future. It's the immediate future. Real quick before we get into that, because we're going to talk about that more, I do want to mention, Adipia and I could literally start a cryptocurrency if we wanted to today.
Yeah.
Okay. And it could be a Ponzi scheme, or it could be a little local currency or whatever. That's what cryptocurrency actually is. Bitcoin is different in that it's not as simple as that. And not all cryptocurrencies are created equal, as we've emphasized, okay? And there have been a lot of Ponzi schemes. There has been a lot of bandwagoning, a lot of FOMO and everything. And so what, number one, you should take away from this is, no, not all cryptos equal. There is a train, okay? And you want to be on the right train. Don't get on all the little trains just because they're labeled, oh, this is crypto, okay? You want to get on the right train. It is the future. But be careful what trains. And again, the small ones, most of them are going to be disappearing. It's kind of like gambling. If you want to try and get into the little ones and stuff, it's more like gambling for the hook of it, for the excitement of it. So hopefully this is a huge value add, folks, that we're sharing. This is not something you're going to be able to find on the internet or at like a conference as far as advice. We've really distilled down really valuable information here for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, all right. So I put a few things in chat about mining, and I will be able to share some resources. I highly recommend like going and reading up on it, because it takes a lot to fully understand it. But just understanding the mechanism of how Bitcoin works helps you understand the whole inflation and how it's different, because it can be complex, and we'll touch on it here in a second. So where are we? Where are we with Bitcoin? So basically, Bitcoin adoption is going to reach saturation quicker than all of these technologies. It's really about the rails of adoption being the internet, which we talked about, and it's really the most efficient state of informational spread on the internet ever. So where we are with Bitcoin, if you remember that model that we looked at before, the S curve, this is where we are still. We're still down here. And I would say not just Bitcoin, right? This is Bitcoin data, and it's a report that was put up by Blockware Solutions. It's based on Glassnode on-chain user data. It's the metrics that are used in Bitcoin. And I would also say, though, overall with adoption with blockchain and cryptocurrency, Ethereum and Bitcoin, all of it is down there. That's still where we are. And nothing has been growing faster than Bitcoin adoption, even relative to all other technologies in history. So that's really where we are.
Yes, it's something to note. We're not here, okay? It's been 12 years, I don't know, 8 years at least, okay? So the escalation's coming soon. So if you've been sitting a bit, don't sit too long, because this valuable information today, we're not, we didn't create Bitcoin. We're just sharing information.
Yeah.
But we're not at zero, and we're right before the inflection point, just so in our opinions, in our professional opinions.
Yeah.
Adipio, did you want me to go to the next slide, or?
Yeah.
There's also a question in the chat about how to purchase Bitcoin and crypto, but also you very specifically noted that there are certain trains you should be a part of and others you should absolutely ignore. Yeah. So there was also a private chat with me saying, how do you know which one is legitimate, which train we should get on, and how do I go about even purchasing Bitcoin?
Great questions. First of all, in WOW, which is a mastermind we've created this specifically for brass tacks conversations about money, we help each other because it's not easy to figure this out. It's actually very technical. You have to get a coin and a wallet and all this other stuff. There's tons of articles. Adapia, would you want to say, where would, there's so much information we could share about it. I just don't know how to share.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. Look, like, it's not terribly difficult to buy, but I would caution, don't just go out and buy it right now. Like, you got to like really take your time. Like, this is, okay, let me put it this way. Bitcoin is up 25% this week. It's down 46% in the past 3 months. Okay. It's volatile because anytime there's a new technology, anything that's being adopted, the volatility is insane. It is intense. So there are different, like, you can go on Coinbase. That's the most popular one. You can buy it there, but don't just go mortgage your house. Don't just, please do not do that. Like, this is still, for most people, maybe 1% of your net worth, maybe. Okay. Yeah. Like, if you can do dollar cost averaging, like, I don't know, $25 a month to start, just depending on your budget. I don't know. Everybody's different. Just buy. The best way to do this is to just buy on a consistent, regular schedule, kind of like the way you go into like your 401ks on a monthly or like on a weekly basis. Don't try to time the market. Don't try to play it unless you're a day trader, unless you love that. Please be really careful.
Job. I mean, yeah, to try to craft
so much work.
And what I've heard is that you should only invest in Bitcoin or crypto what you're prepared to lose. So just play with it, learn about it by investing a very small amount. It could be $250, could be $1,000. That's something that if you lost it, it would be no skin off your nose. You would just simply say, okay, that was a good learning exercise for me. Now I have a better understanding of how Ethereum and Bitcoin, the whole sort of cryptocurrency arena kind of works now. So it was $250, say, of learning investment. So I can be smarter about making a larger investment now that I have that experience, that kind of idea.
Think of it like the coffee money. Yeah. Okay, what you spend on your coffee, you could give up some coffees, put it toward buying some Bitcoin. Of course, it would be fractions of Bitcoin. In fact, Bitcoin's at 23 or 26 right now, $26,000 per Bitcoin. Even if you buy, like they said, $25 to $250 a month total, because some of us spend a lot on coffee, okay, monthly, okay, where you'll end up will be fantastic. And the reason will be you did it before the giant inflection point. In terms of there are Bitcoin mining funds. If you want to reach out to WOW, we can try to give you more information. Those are unique. There are exchanges that you can kind of get into that there's just a few technical steps, but there are videos and stuff that can teach you how to do it. It's not that hard, but when it comes to doing it, I'm like the grandma who's bad with tech. I need someone to just help like walk me through it a little bit, because it's like, oh, you have to sign up for a wallet. Well, what's a wallet? It's new. It's okay. You're just like a baby learning to walk. And you have to understand that is the only barrier. Once you can get that part down, anybody can buy it, even in little fractions.
Yeah. Yeah. And
the main question that was which trains? I'll just make it simple. Bitcoin and Ether, in that order.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then go play, go have fun, go do some research, and then decide if there's because this is like tech companies, right? Go see if you like what they're working on, become part of the community. This is one of the really defining factors of what's called Web3. And blockchains and the cryptocurrencies that represent their network. That's what these are. You can get involved. It's really the beauty of it. And so then you can decide, hey, I really believe in this. I think it's going to be something in 10 years. So let me buy a bunch of them at 5 cents currently. But understand too that those are inflationary coins. So just like a stock, they can issue more, except for Bitcoin. It's the only one that can't happen with, which is, there's a lot to it. The other thing before you go out and purchase it, so important, is that with all cryptocurrency, because of the sovereign aspect of it, you are responsible for your own crypto. So what does that mean? You are the bank. No one's going to save you if you leave your money on an exchange and it gets hacked. And this has been happening. So, because one of the things that happens when there's any technological cycle of anything new, there's scams, there's hacks, it's dangerous out there. So you have to really learn and understand how to keep your own crypto safe. So before you go buy anything, and there's plenty of articles out there and information on how to hold your own crypto. Hold your own crypto. And so that becomes really important, especially if you're going to go out and buy a large amount, right? Because those things do happen. So I really wanted to say that as well. So, and you've probably heard, we'll just touch on this Bitcoin and energy usage, because I know a lot of people ask me about it, or there's a lot of misinformation out there. And people will say, oh, but Bitcoin is like ruining the environment. Well, Bitcoin uses less electricity than our dryers. So you got to really, really do this research, truly get informed, and just be careful of people's opinions, because there's a lot, way more than I can go into right now, with the time that we have left, on how Bitcoin actually is used to stabilize the energy grid, which is a good thing, which saves electricity and actually brings the cost down for certain people over time in certain places. It's used to actually take pollution out of the environment by going and sitting on flare sites.
What are you manifesting? Most of us are manifesting our own ignorance.
Jay? I think Jay.
Now, I want you to write this down, and I might touch.
Okay. I just muted this person.
I think there's even, just so you guys know, there's even really cool stuff happening in Texas where they're creating solar, capturing solar in order to help mine. So the energy question, I think, is a good one out of Pia.
It's a really huge one. So I'll just there's like elements of what Bitcoin is too, and like the mining is proof of work, and that the mining and the use of electricity and the whole mechanism of how this all works is what ensures that the network remains decentralized and trustless, so that no transaction can be double counted, which is a really important part about how we, that way, like I can't say, oh, look, Jennifer didn't actually pay me. And then you'd like this, there's all this like underlying technology that's super nerdy. But I just want you to know, like, there's things about this that aren't just like a Dogecoin where you hear like that was literally spun up as a joke, and yet people got in on it. So this is why when we talk about, and this is a slide here, about really doing your research and really getting informed, and also understanding what is going on behind the scenes, so that, if you want to like trade and kind of gamble with it, just know what you're getting into, but then know that there are some very valid things that are literally changing the world, and thousands that are not.
Yeah, exactly. And just a quick reminder, history is written by the winners. I remember hearing that when I was a child and thinking, oh, wow, you're right. It's not necessarily that one was more valid than the other. It was just that it was stronger and bigger. It's really what it came down to. Look what we did to the Native Americans, right? They were a beautiful culture. We won, right? Bitcoin is huge. It's biggest. Ether's next biggest. Size actually matters, especially when you're talking about consensus-driven, strategically and situationally significant agreements, right? Well, the more people are going to agree, the more then that it is kind of, in a way, it's like a territory conquest, right? You get more people to agree, and then you are more valuable. And Bitcoin's early to the table. All the other ones came after Bitcoin. Let's remember that Bitcoin was first. Now there's Coca-Cola, and then there's Pepsi, and there might be like Bitcoin and maybe one or two others that they'll be able to come to a table and everything. But that's why we keep saying, don't waste your time on the little babies. I think we came through a period during the pandemic where there were some people who were able to trade and do a lot with that. But I think the time for that's over. I think it's really the time to think about the big ones. How can you engage with the big ones? And don't expect them to be short-term wins. These are long-term holds. Okay. And so crypto casualties, just know that's almost a certainty. I would say I'll eat my toe with hot sauce on it if we still have 9,900 cryptocurrencies in, 20 years. I don't understand why we would do that, because centralization is a huge part of the value of having a digital currency. The other one is, the FOMO factor was humongous with all of this, as we saw with Dogecoin, for example, where a joke could just become a thing. Like, just say no. You've listened to some excellent centering information here based in fact and logic. Okay. Just focusing on purchasing fractions of well-established coins is all you need to do to be on the train. That's it. It's actually really simple. It can sound complicated because there are 9,900 of them, but 9,898 of them are probably a waste of your time at this point. So just, we can't be more clear. Count on regulation. So here's an interesting, part of why I think Bitcoin got so big is that the early adapters were like the dark web. You could loophole, you could offshore, you could hide all kinds of stuff. I truly believe that it was great. I know this because through my networks and contacts, the huge marijuana, CBD, THC kind of industries, they had a big problem with money. And so Bitcoin was a great way to help with that in the early days. All those things are over, though, because the SEC is serious now. And so is the federal government of the United States about regulating this. Okay, so why it got its head start was because it did have all these awesome kind of offshore loophole aspects, but those are over. Okay, don't count on those as to why you need to do this or participate in it. It got its head start, which is great because it was very theoretical. People probably in the beginning would have laughed at it, except for it had these amazing offshore and tax loophole aspects. And so big money could get involved. But now it's here to stay. So expect it to get regulated and become more mainstream. And then just see the vision, okay? Because here we are, it's 2022. But remember, back in 1970, email was something we read about in sci-fi books.
I just want to say one quick thing about regulation, because I've also seen this where they say, oh, Bitcoin is used for illegal purposes and money laundering and such. In reality, less than 1% of Bitcoin is used for such purposes because the blockchain is transparent, so you can actually see where it goes. Literally, like you can't really steal it and get away with it, not really, because you can always track the wallet to where this goes. And so when Jennifer's saying that it was used kind of in the dark web way, it's because it was a way for people, they decided amongst themselves this has value, and that's how it all started. But in reality, cash is the dirtiest money, and is used in as a ratio, as a percentage, far more for illicit transactions because you can literally not track cash. And then the other thing about regulation too, the SEC has already stated that Bitcoin is a commodity. In fact, the SEC is fighting with the commodities board to see who gets oversight over it. Regulation is coming hard and fast for the rest of crypto, which is centralized with people that can be bad actors that need the regulation so that they can't do these things called rug pulls, where they can just literally take your money because they sell you this idea of this hot new stock tip. So regulation is 100% coming. Although Bitcoin in and of itself can't be regulated, which is why it's going to be sitting on the commodities side of things. It sits as an asset as opposed to where everything else in crypto sits.
Yes, definitely. I don't mean to say Bitcoin's still dirty. It's far beyond that or anything like that. And it's true, they had some major Bitcoin scams and the people got caught, actually, because again, if you go back to what blockchain is, there is a chain. There's always a link versus to Adapia's point about cash. Cash can kind of be invisible. It can be off the radar. And Bitcoin, actually, there's always going to be no pun intended, a paper trail. There always is, because exactly, it's blockchain, and that's what blockchain is, which hopefully by now you've learned what blockchain is somewhere. That's a super basic thing. Everybody just, when they talk about crypto or Bitcoin, they talk about what's blockchain. We're so over that because we're so past that at this point. If you need to understand what blockchain is, just search it on the web, watch a 5-minute YouTube video, and you will know the answer. We're going to get to maybe more of a Q&A. Just quick reminder, women are amazing at finance and they just need to understand their power, okay? Women are statistically better with money than men in almost every single way, except in 2 areas. One is believing in themselves. Men believe in themselves more than women, generally speaking, although we love men. We're not bashing men. We're just trying to help women understand their power too. And then the second thing women don't do, and this is a big credit to men, is take on enough risk. So for money to grow, risk is an inherent piece of growth in life and in money. And women who can tend to be too risk averse, they deny themselves opportunities for growth. They don't take the risk of asking for those raises. They don't take the risk of participating in opportunities, vehicles that can grow their money much faster. And they'll stuff it under a mattress or keep it in a virtually 0 interest bearing savings account to a fault. And that is an area of weakness in women. And that's really what we at WOW are looking to help correct. The lion's share of 30 trillion in assets is going to be controlled by women in 8 years or less. We're all in the workforce at this point, almost all of us, more than half of us are, and thankfully we're growing in leadership positions. That's kind of what we do with WOW, which is really just a small mastermind, but we look to take what we do within our mastermind and just promote these awarenesses and these access points to women all across the country and all across the globe. We're very thankful to Leadership Global for partnering in this forum to get all of this inspiration out to all of the women at Leadership Global. And hopefully this has a trickle effect on your own pockets and in your mind and how you're going to carry yourself forward. That's our intention with WOW. And